The stories that we are told hold huge implications in the outcomes of our lives. And we can talk about fairy tales, growing up on Disney princess movies and being shown this narrative of the princess needing to be saved and waiting for her Prince Charming. And then that's like when her life really begins, is when the Prince Charming character drops in and everything is better from there. The way that that influences your psyche and it affects the ways that you like live your life and the choices that you make, if that in childhood is what you grew up on, this story, this like narrative arc where a girl is kind of like victimized by life and like think everyone's so mean to her and she's not chosen, and then like this man comes in and he chooses her, and as soon as he chooses her, her life becomes beautiful and she becomes a princess and she has wealth and like all of these things. So the way that translates, if you internalize those beliefs and you don't actually ever look at them and they're kind of like running in your subconscious, what that will do is, like, as a woman, when you start noticing the signals, like the parallels in the princess stories to yourself, you'll start looking at, oh, I feel very victimized by life right now. Like, I feel very not chosen. Your brain begins to see the parallels between your life and the fairy tale. Humans are really good at recognizing patterns. And so it will try to play out the outcome based on what it knows. So if you are picking up those patterns, like you're the version of the princess before her Prince Charming comes in, you start to recognize yourself in that story and it begins to influence how you act. What it will do to you is it will keep you in a persistent and consistent state of waiting for the Prince Charming, for your video to blow up, for some external outcome where you feel chosen. Because your brain is just trying to predict based on the narratives that it has already seen played out many, many times before. The stories that you are fed when you are younger, it becomes what you expect from reality. You're like, oh yeah, I've heard of this before. I'm familiar with this story. I'm in a state of waiting, and then something outside of me is going to come and save me. And so because you're expecting that, you never end up taking the actions to save yourself because you're waiting for something outside of you to save you. This is one of the first things that I realized all these years back when I was really, I'm going to link a video. This is like a video that I made at the very, very beginning of my journey of personal expansion, where I was looking around at my reality. Like, you'll see the title of it is I Just Want the Freedom to Live My Life. This was like the moment where I really realized I do not like what is happening in my life right now, and I do not see that this is going to get any better. And I just want the freedom to live my life. It was like the moment where I had connected to that. A little bit after that, I began to realize that no one was coming to save me and that I had to do something about it. If I continued to be in that perpetual state of waiting, my life was never going to change. The stories that we had been fed were in fact fairy tales, and that although there was so much similarity that I was seeing between myself and those like narrative arcs, I wanted to do something differently because I felt so much inner power within me. Like, I didn't want someone or something else outside of me to take the credit of my liberation, my personal expansion, my life change. And so that was also driving me to be like, okay, no one's coming to save me. What do I need to do? And that realization was what started me on my personal path of expansion. And then it was like, I started choosing myself more and more and more, and obviously faced some consequences from that choice, because obviously when you start breaking generational cycles and you begin starting to detach yourself from toxic ways of being and environments and stuff, they don't kind of like let go easily. There is this like push and pull back and forth. Like, there's a reason why it can be so hard for us to make choices that allow us to choose ourselves. Like, if it was easy, we would do it. But we know that there's something that's blocking us, some potential like reaction from others that makes it really hard for us to really like do the thing because we're afraid of the intensity of the experience that comes afterwards. So for me, like the biggest example of this was my disownment, which I also did story times a few years ago. Really, this specific video, I really talked about like that moment where everything climaxed. That's just setting up the context of how I want to deepen this conversation today and this topic today. I want to talk about spiritual myths and spiritual stories. So fairy tales are still these stories and these narrative arcs that are fed to us, but there's some deeper stories and narrative arcs that are also fed to us. And the ones that have the greatest hold on our personal psyches and our collective psyches are the religious narratives and the spiritual myths and stories. And I don't mean myth necessarily I feel like the way that we define myth is kind of convoluted. I define myth as a narrative, as a story. So a fairy tale is a myth. It's like, I feel like in modern day, the definition of myth has begun to be like something that is synonymous with like something that is a lie. I'm not talking about truth or untruth or anything like that. I'm talking about myth as these narratives and these stories. So the Cinderella story is a myth that is told over and over again and adapted with the times and all of this stuff. Same with the religious stories that we are told. If you grow up religious, you already know there are a wealth of stories that you are taught from, right? If you grew up Muslim, there's like all of these stories that are actually the same stories that are in the Bible and the Torah, because the Islamic faith is like built on the foundations of the Abrahamic faiths that came before it. The storytelling is how humans convey like life teachings to one another. These stories and these teachings are what develop belief systems in our minds, and these belief systems are what then influence how we act. So going back to that fairy tale story from the beginning that I was talking about, if you have a belief that if your life sucks, that the only way that it's going to get better is if something outside of you comes to save you, if that fairy tale myth is what installed that belief into you, it's going to influence your actions, because you might not take personal action on your own because you're constantly going to be in a state of waiting, because what you're expecting is for something outside of you to save you. So going a bit deeper into religion. So religion is something that holds an extremely deep grip on our minds and our belief systems and therefore the ways that we take action in the world. And the one that I want to talk about today is the Adam and Eve creation myth. The creation myth's like the mystery of why humanity is on this planet and what we're doing here. They hold like deeper meaning because they point to this like very existential, lingering, unanswerable question that I feel like every human at some point contends with. And so there's a variety of different creation myths across spiritual traditions. The one I want to talk about is the Adam and Eve one, which I actually don't know the relationship to the Adam and Eve story to Judaism, so I'm not going to speak on Judaism. I know that it is relevant in Christianity and Islam is what I was born in, so I'm going to talk from that lens. In the Christian version of this creation story, there is Adam and Eve, and they are, they're just like living their best life in the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden is essentially like this paradise reality. And then there's this snake that is tempting them to do the one thing that God told them not to do. And God was like, this is the tree of knowledge. Do not eat from it. If you eat from it, there will be consequences. So, but you're allowed to do anything else that you want to do. So Adam and Eve are like living their life, but now they have this temptation, right? Because they have this innate human curiosity and this desire to expand, to know, to learn. They're curious, like there's something within them that wants to see beyond their current experience. But they're like, no, but God told me not to do it. God told me not to do it. So then this snake appears, and the snake is like the devil or whatever. It's like the symbolic representation of the devil, it begins to tempt them more, and it begins to be like, okay, but don't you want to really know what it's like to eat this apple, to eat from this fruit? In the Christian myth, Eve, the woman, is the one who succumbs to that desire and that curiosity to know more, and she eats the apple. And God is obviously like furious with them, and that is like called the original sin. He's furious with them, and so he ejects them from the Garden of Eden, from this like paradise existence, and he like drops them onto the earth to experience a realm where there is challenge and trial and suffering. It's like as a punishment. Okay, so what is the narrative that is building up here? What is the belief system that is at the core of this story? The message is basically, do not question beyond what is already told to you. Stay obedient and stay within the realms of what is in your awareness already, and do not succumb to the temptation of desire and curiosity of what's beyond. Because if you do, you will suffer the consequences, and they will be intense consequences. So moving into Islam, Islam has a slight twist on this. First of all, it doesn't blame Eve only, like it doesn't just blame the women. So that's a great win for Islam. Both Adam and Eve together made the decision and ate from the tree of knowledge. And then the other thing is that in the Islamic retelling of this myth, Adam and Eve, they realize what they've done and they feel awful and they ask for forgiveness and God forgives them. But they still have to face the consequences of being plunged and ejected into this earthly plane where it's not quite paradise, is it? And so again, like a lot of people, I was like talking about this a little bit on my TikTok and my reels, and a lot of people were trying to like argue the semantics of this story. But I'm not even going to go into that. I just want us to focus on the underlying teaching that is being transmitted through this myth or through this story. And which is that, again, if you don't listen to the rules and you dare to question what's beyond your existing reality, there will be negative consequences. And so I found a lot of resonance in this. Like this myth had a huge hold on me as I was going through my own like self-expansion and liberation journey, because at that moment where that video, I just want the freedom to live my life, I was terrified that if I knew that in order to access the freedom that I wanted to access, I needed to break some rules, specifically these religious rules. And I also knew that this was coming from an inner desire for something more. I was like, I feel very like there's something beyond this life experience for me. Like there's something more. I meant to live a different way. But that the teachings of that myth were like lodged into my brain, and it wasn't exactly conscious. If you're told this, it like kind of lands at a subconscious level. And until you like bring them to the surface and you identify what's going on and you like manually update those beliefs, it kind of stays. So anyway, so that was one of the things that made it so hard for me to really choose myself in the moments that I needed to. And it was like, this is what I had to overcome in order to free myself eventually, because I had to kind of rewrite that inner narrative that if I follow my desires, that something bad is going to happen to me. And like, in a way, something bad did happen, right? Because I followed my desires. I continued to stay with Garrett and decided to continue this relationship with him. And the bad thing that happened was my parents cut me off. However, what they don't tell you, what they don't include in the myth is what happens after that initial bad thing. It's like, sure, that was like really hard to go through, but because I chose myself, I got to see what was beyond the walls. And then I got to live in a reality that was beyond the walls. And now after the healing process of the disownment and whatever, it's like I'm looking around at my life and I'm like, this is amazing. Like I'm actually, and I don't say this as like I don't say this in, like, I genuinely say this from such a grounded place. Like, I'm so freaking happy with the reality that I exist in now. Like, I have this beautiful home. I have this beautiful relationship and marriage. I have this beautiful dog. Like I have full-time freedom. Like Garrett and I are abundant in resources. And it's like I wouldn't be able to get here if I didn't do the things that I did, if I didn't break some rules, if I didn't overcome my fears. Yeah, and like the moral of this video is I want you to think about that one nagging inner desire that you have. Okay, there's going to be this one thing, this one action that you know you're kind of meant to take to activate your dream life. There's a fear around it because, again, it's like that action is going to allow you to see beyond the walls of your current reality. It's going to maybe break some existing rules potentially. It's going to stretch you from your comfort zone. But I want to like update this myth for you, because even if that action creates like a temporary period of chaos, as was told, right? I want to add that what happens after that is your reality comes back together in an even more harmonious way. When you follow your desires, they lead you to your golden age timeline. And your golden age timeline, as I define it, is essentially the best possible version of your life that you can imagine or dream of. In order to get there, you need to follow your desires, because it is your desire that is even in the first place defining what your golden age timeline is, right? Your golden age timeline is the version of your reality that you most desire. You need to match the energies. Like you need, in order to get to the place that is created from desire, you need to follow actions from desire. The reason it can feel scary is because we're so taught through these myths and these narratives to fear the temporary chaos and the discomforts and the challenges. We're taught that if we experience any sort of chaos, it's because we've done something wrong. And I'm here to just tell you that chaos is reality restructuring itself. In order for an old system to become a new system, it has to first break down. So my old life, where I was very trapped by religious rules, by cultural rules, that needed to break down. I needed to get into this like disowned brown girl identity. I needed everything to kind of crumble in order to rebuild back better, because I was able to like fully clear the slate and then build how I wanted to rebuild. And that's why my reality looks as beautiful as it does. So I hope that this video sparked some epiphanies for you, some contemplations for you. I invite you to think of what that move is that is from desire, that you feel scared to act on, because I want you to know that moving in direction of that is what you need to do to get to your dream life. And yes, it may bring up a temporary period of discomfort, but that discomfort is not born from punishment. Like you're not being punished by God or by reality or by the universe for following your desires. What's happening is that your existing structures are breaking down so that you can then rebuild them in better and more harmonious ways. If you'd like support with this process, I'm actually running a program called Liberated that's starting on September 14th. And we're basically going to go through this process together of identifying in week 1 what this core desire related action is. And in weeks 2, we're going to detangle the blocks and the resistances and the fears that we're facing that make us not take those actions and not activate our golden age timelines. In week 3, together, I'm going to give you tools for like nervous system regulation, mindset tools, all of these things to help you support yourself in week 3 as we all take this action together. By the way, I have one in mind that's going to come up for me, and I'm going to do it with you guys. Like I'm going to go through this process with you guys. And then in week 4, we're going to celebrate, and then we're going to also then identify the next power move, because the process of actualizing your dream life or your golden age timeline, it's taking a series of these action steps that expand us from desire that feel scary in the moment, but as we go forward into them, we deal with the restructuring process, we come out on the other side and our reality is even more harmonious and beautiful than it was before. It's like our golden age timeline is built upon this continuous power move taking, this continuous process of making power move after power move after power move. Obviously, with integration in between, you don't have to rush yourself, but it is these moves that you continuously take to expand yourself and beautify your life. So if you're interested in that, I invite you to follow the link in the description for Liberated. The door, so we start on September 14th, but the doors will close on September 16th because our first call is on the 17th. On the 14th, I'm going to open the Telegram group, but all of the details and everything is in the description or on my sales page in the description. So if you're feeling the pull and you want to do this together with me and you feel like it would be like a very fun thing to do, not to like, don't join this program because you feel like you need to join this program in order to be saved from your life, or you need this in order to be able to do the thing. You can just identify what that move is for you and then just go ahead and do it. This program is for people who feel like they want support through this. They know it's going to be easier and more harmonious and more fun even to do this with other people. It's going to be less intense. Sasha going to have community and stuff to help you process through stuff. So this is who the program is for. It's not for people who are like, I am not that thing outside of you that is going to come and save you. Okay. This whole thing, this whole experience, if you choose to take part in it, it's all an act of self-trust. It's all meant to activate a new level of self-trust and personal power that will then carry you into the next parts of your life. So that being said, thank you for watching today's video. I'm so happy to be making these types of talking videos again. I did feel some nerves as I was like, it's like this video feels kind of like a warm-up, but I like this format a lot and I really missed it. So thank you for being here.